everyone. We're Love, Laughter, Luxe. I'm Elena.
I'm Gabby.
And I'm Laura.
And we thought that in order to kind of give people that are single some kind of feelings of, not feeling so
Give
weird.
us a hope. Give them
hope.
hope.
Yeah.
No, but this isn't going to give them hope.
No, this won't give them hope.
Yeah,
we give you laughter.
Yes, we figured that this would be an appropriate time to maybe tell you guys about some of our worst dates ever.
Yes.
And just in the spirit of the season, because it is Valentine's Day coming up, we've kissed a lot of frogs collectively.
Yeah.
So we thought we would tell you about a bad date each. So Gabby, would you like to start it off?
No, I don't want to start it off. But I guess I'm going to have to. Okay.
Yes.
I was never a big dater in my singledom. Mm-hmm. I've always been the type of person that, I like being on my own. I like being single. I liked, not having to answer anyone and just do my own thing.
But you've had a lot of boyfriends too.
Thanks.
You have. Let's be real. You've always had a boyfriend. So.
I haven't always. Who am I, Kim Kardashian? I have dated, yes, here and there. I think my worst date was this guy that I met. I won't name the bar.
No names too. No names on the guys.
But I met him there, and I thought he was really cute, really good looking, tall, baby face, looked like a boy band member. So I decided to go out for coffee with him, and I went out for coffee with him, and everything was good. Usually the real personality doesn't come out on a coffee date, I have to say. So I decided that I would go out on a second date with him. And I don't even know, I think I just realized at that point he was just not my type. I like really funny guys. That's what gets me. If someone is absolutely hilarious and make me pee my pants laughing, I'm yours. And this guy was not at all. And what happened was he found out that I like funny guys. And
oh no.
So he, and I decided, I was like, this is a nice guy. I could just be friends with him. Everything's cool, but he ended up taking a liking to me. And he asked my friend what I liked. And at this point, it was over. Like, I just didn't want to date him. But, I'm a nice person. And I was like, I can hang out with him, and his friends and, my friends or whatever. And it didn't go that way. So he asked my friend what I liked in a guy. And my friend said, number one thing is sense of humor. And he started saying stuff like, normal conversation on the phone. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym. Yeah, you better go to the gym to fix those fat ankles. And it was crickets. And I'm standing there on the other end of the phone, and I'm like, okay, well, on that note, I'm going to go now. So, so he tried to be funny. It didn't work. And then Valentine's Day came along, and he was like, let me just take you out. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. And at this point, I was starting to be rude because he kept pushing so much that I just didn't know how to get rid of him. Yeah. And I was starting to be rude. And it was the time of MSN Messenger. We all know MSN Messenger, right? Yeah. So he was on my MSN Messenger, and I think I was doing some work or something. And he kept talking to me and kept bugging me on MSN. And I started being really rude back, like to a point where I was so blunt that even my friend was like, okay, you got to tone it back because you're being a bitch. So then he asked me if I would go out with him for Valentine's Day, that he doesn't have he made it sound very casual and very friendly. And he's like, you know what? You don't have anyone and I don't have anyone. So let's just go do something, super casual. We'll have fun, and I'm like, okay, sounds fun. I don't have any plans for Valentine's Day. My friend kind of got in my ear with the whole thing that I was kind of being a little too mean and a little too abrasive. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to be nice, whatever. So he ends up picking me up, and he drives me out to...
The swamp.
He drove me out to his parents' house where he lived.
Oh, what's with the parents?
His parents were told to go somewhere else that day. And he brought me in, and there was rose petals all on the floor of when you opened the door. And normally, women love this kind of crap.
But if it's the wrong guy?
Yeah. If it's
Especially if it's the wrong guy.
If it's the wrong guy. I don't like this kind of stuff. I know some girls totally do.
Yeah.
My idea of romance is just natural, organic, like...
Give me a cracker.
Yeah, like, no, but I'm just saying, like, I don't like that.
Give me a cracker.
I don't like that overdone kind of romance. It's never been me. So he put rose petals on the floor, and it led me to this dish he created, like he made, and he put it on the floor of like his living room, like kind of like sitting down on the
like a
picnic
picnic?
style, yeah.
No, okay.
But get this, he made me noodles and cheese.
Oh,
You know
Gabby
me and
doesn't like
cheese.
cheese.
Oh, but I love cheese.
I love
That would be
cheese, too.
right
So
up
he
my
made me
alley.
like this Alfredo cheese thing, and I was like, oh, what's this? And he's like, oh, it's Alfredo. I'm like, does it have cheese in it? Because I can smell it from like a mile away. It was wafting. And I get sick to my stomach when I smell cheese. I can sit in a restaurant and I can smell it from a mile away that someone's having cheese. And it just, my stomach starts going. It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, and I said, oh, I don't eat cheese. I'll just eat the bread. So I ate the bread, and then I guess his parents came home in the middle of this, and he's like, this is not over, I have more. And I'm like, oh, great. Can't wait, right? So then these flower petals.
Such a nice guy.
These
but anyway.
flower petals, shut up. These
Nice
flower-
guys always finish last in Gabby's world.
So these flower petals led me to his room where there was a card, and the card on there, I mean, the idea behind it was great.
Yeah,
And I
very
get it.
nice.
If it was the right guy, I understand. But it was so overdone that
Yeah.
I started laughing in the middle of it. And this card had like, to your next clue, go down to the basement. I know it's not like go down to the basement. You know,
And
I'll
then
be
there was a-
waiting for you. You know?
There was a strange dungeon set up.
But no, then I went downstairs and my favorite movie was down there. He rented Pretty Woman.
Okay.
So, which was nice. I basically sat down on the couch. I watched maybe 5 minutes and I was like, I gotta go, dude. I gotta go.
Wow. He put in a
You're
lot.
only
of
my
effort.
first date of the
He
evening.
did, and
put
you
in
know,
a lot of
I
effort.
really wanted to make sure he didn't pull any moves on me because I was not interested.
Yeah.
And I know that probably a lot of people will say that I let him on just by going on this date.
Yeah.
But before we did this
And it was
date,
Valentine's Day, right?
but it was very clear before he took me out. I told him, I'm like, look, you know, he even said to me, he's like, I'm single, you're single, let's just do a casual. You know, well, this wasn't casual. And it was awkward, and it was just, I wasn't into him, and he knew I wasn't into him, and he just, I guess he tried that one last plea, and it just, yeah.
Yeah.
No. What about you?
Wow. He sounds like a nice guy.
He does sound like a
effort,
nice
but
guy.
I get what you mean. Wrong guy.
Yeah.
It's just really.
But you know,
awkward,
Valentine's Day, there's so much pressure put on Valentine's Day
I
that
know.
you had to know something
You
was
have to,
going to
I think,
happen.
feel out the girl because
Not
not
feel
feel
up
up.
the girl.
not feel up the girl, feel out the girl because not all girls are the same.
Yeah.
Some love this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For me,
I do.
I kind of like it too.
I do.
Yeah.
Do you?
I don't get any of it, but I like
no,
it. I like the romance.
But you know what? I get her point. If it's the wrong guy, if it's a guy that you're like, I just want to be friends with you,
Yeah.
and he does something,
gets awkward.
It's very
Yeah.
awkward because you don't want to come across as mean. At the same
Yes.
time, you got to be true to yourself because you don't want to lead the person on. At the same time, you know how much effort the person put in for you, so you are in an awkward situation.
Yeah,
too.
it just
So
it
I
does.
get
It puts
I
you in
get
an
it.
awkward position, and especially when they go through so much work to get
Yeah.
this date going, and then the more work they do, the more awkward you
Yeah,
feel.
it's true. I don't have a Valentine's worst date story. Mine was actually, I was probably 20 or so just starting, university, 1920 or so. It was when
1920?
1920.
It was in the roaring
No,
20s.
it wasn't, not 1920. It was 19 to 20-year-old.
Just before the Depression.
I don't want to date myself, but it was.
Well, I don't want to date you either.
Oh, wow. But
Oh,
this is when Titanic was in the movie theater. So
Oh.
remember
the
Titanic?
longest movie
The
ever.
I
longest
think I saw it
movie,
8 times.
But it's
And Rose should have helped.
Okay, so here's my worst date. So the guy asked me out, said, have you seen Titanic? And I'm like, no. So it was a movie date. So, we met. He didn't even pick me up. We met at the movie theaters. And so we go and sit down, and, he bought like the popcorn and the drink and like Twizzlers and everything. So we're sitting there. Titanic is a romantic movie. Now we're watching the movie, and there's like the really like quiet, like really sappy parts. He's eating a Twizzler. He's twizzling it around, And all of a sudden, during like the really romantic, sappy parts, he's like, whacked me with the Twizzler. I'm like, what the hell, right? And he's just like, chomp, 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 whack. What do you think about this scene? I don't know. I need to watch it. Okay, so, romance, whatever, like, you're sort of getting in the mood, whatnot. I hear whack again with the damn Twizzlers. And it was the Twizzlers that are like, the big, huge pack. Yeah. So he's like twizzling around and whacking me with the Twizzlers. I'm like, what is going on here?
So now you can't look at a pack of Twizzlers
I
the
can't
same.
look at a pack of Twizzlers the same. It's 3 hours of whacking me with the Twizzlers during like the
Did
romantic.
he feel uncomfortable or?
I think he's trying to be funny. Once
yeah,
again, I'm like
that's
Abby.
the worst.
I love
just,
funny
if you're
guys.
not funny,
Yeah.
then just don't push it.
And if the inappropriate, when the moment that you're at the front of the boat and it's like the whole moment, right? Whack with the Twizzler. I'm like, what is going on? It was
But
so
that's your worst date?
No. It gets even better. It gets even better.
Okay.
So
like
after that, I'm
Twizzler
thinking,
S&M, like that's it?
No.
Okay,
It gets,
okay,
so after
all right.
the movie, because it was an early show too. So he's like, "Do you want to get something to eat?" I'm like, "Okay." I'm 19, 20 years old. So okay, let's go grab something to eat. The whole Twizzlers thing, I thought maybe he's nervous. Maybe he's trying to lighten the mood.
That's what I would think.
Because
Yeah.
he knows that I like, funny guys. When we first met, he was funny. He seemed nice. So that's why I agreed to
But
go
there
on
were
the
no
date.
Twizzlers around
There was
the
no
first time.
Twizzlers around.
You had
So
no
then-
idea what was coming.
No, I didn't. So then we went out for dinner, a very casual restaurant, all that, and we're sitting there. And then it seemed to be fun. I think he was kind of calming down, and the conversation seemed to be decent. And then the bill comes, and he looks at me, and he's like, "So, do you want to go Dutch?"
I'm a quarter Dutch, and I'm offended that this has become a slogan, right?
Okay,
It's cheap.
regardless of your
It's being
your heritage,
cheap, but yes, that's tacky. Don't
this is-
invite a woman out if you're not going to pay.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Here's
Sorry.
my thing.
Agreed.
Here's my thing. Okay, I understand if you're going on your first date and you're 15, you're 16 years old, even then, right? I don't think if you're going to invite a girl out to dinner, if you're the person inviting, then you should pay. If you're two guys, right, and you're going out to dinner, whoever asked the person out should be paying for dinner. Right? I'm not going to say the guy should automatically pay. I'm saying
I think on a first date, the guy should automatically
the guy should pay, or whoever asked the person.
I'm not
out.
saying once you've established that relationship,
Yeah,
the
that's
guy should
diff-
always play.
No,
That's
no, no,
different.
that's
But
different.
first date
Yeah.
as an act of chivalry,
Yes.
it should be the
I
gentleman
agree.
that pays.
I agree. And so when he looked at me and he's like, "So, do you want to go Dutch?" I was like, At this point, I'm like kind of already tuning out. I'm
Yeah.
like, fine, whatever. I throw down my money and he throws down his money. And he's like, "Do you want to go for a drive?" Like,
Who was this guy?
did you date him too? Does it sound oddly familiar?
No, because I would never. I think by the Twizzler portion,
Yeah. I know, right? So he wanted to go to, because we lived in an area where there was a beach nearby, so he wanted to go and be all romantic and go to the beach and everything. And at this point, with the Twizzlers, with me paying for my portion, even though he asked me out, and he wanted to go to the beach to get all romantic, I was just like, no, I don't think so. He's like, "Oh, come on, be romantic." And me being the 19-year-old fool that I was, I'm like, fine, whatever. So
She went to the
I
beach.
went, and literally, like, we just walked, and he was just kind of shuffling around and, like, making some weird, I don't even remember what the conversation was, but I think I remember one, because I just completely tuned it out. I think at one point he tried to grab my hand, and he was, like, clammy
And slimy.
and I looked down, and all I saw was, like, sausage fingers on my arm, and I'm like, I'm so done. I still want to go home. And at that point, I think he tried to kiss me, and I'm like, no, you know what? I gotta go now.
Just
It's
don't.
like just don't. And after that, I think he tried calling me a few times, and I know it's bad. I should have just been like, it's not gonna work, but I basically did what a lot of girls in my situation would do, which is ignore and just kind of avoided going anywhere that I would run into him. Pretty much just.
Thank God for call display, right?
Yeah, it was bad. I felt bad. I think he kept calling, and luckily he eventually got the hint.
Yeah.
And he stopped calling. But for the longest time, I couldn't look at Twizzlers the same, and I avoided going out in certain areas, and I think that was the worst date. A, because of the Twizzlers, and B, because I was forced to pay for my own meal. Yeah, not good.
Traumatic experience. Yeah. Well, for me, I actually wrote a blog about all my bad dates, and you can read it at lovelaughterluxe.com. I actually had the opportunity to. I ran into one of the guys recently, and I said, I wrote about you on my blog. And he was like, what do you mean? And I'm like, oh, you had one of the worst dates ever that I'd been on. And he couldn't remember the date.
Oh.
So I was like, and he's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, it was really funny.
Okay,
and
so what was the date?
I'll tell you that one because I have so many, it's not even funny. I think there was a point in time in my late teens, early 20s where I was bullied a lot in high school. So if anyone gave me the time of day, I wanted to give them a chance. And it led to some very strange dates with people that I probably should not have even said yes to. But I was like, okay, I know what it's like to feel rejected. So you've had the courage to ask me out. Let's go on a date. And so I went out with, and I mean, not all of the dates that I talk about in the blog were from that era. But long story short, okay, so the date with this particular one, it was an actor, very good looking guy. And he invited me over to play Scrabble, which I love. I actually like Scrabble a lot.
I love board games too.
So we were gonna play Scrabble and have some Chinese food. I ended up paying for the Chinese food because he was a starving actor who's actually living with his dad, said that he had come back from LA, was just kind of getting back on his feet here in Vancouver after living in LA. So he was living in his dad's apartment. And so I paid for the Chinese food, came over, and we played Scrabble. He didn't have very good grasp of English, so no, he's Caucasian and spoke English, but he wasn't very smart.
Right.
What I'm getting at was his words were 3-4 letters.
He was a few French fries short of a Happy Meal.
Yeah, well, he wasn't
I like that.
He was good looking and dumb, right? God doesn't always give with both hands. So long story short, we eat the dinner. And I'm cleaning up, and he's on the couch with his pug.
Oh, you told me this
I
story,
did tell you this
think.
one.
Yeah.
I'm going to change the name of the pug because someone might know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just call him Mr. Johnson. Okay, is the name of the pug.
Okay.
So
Are we still talking about the pug, though?
talking about the pug, yes. Not the 80s
Not
t-shirts or whatever, 1990s.
So Mr. Johnson.
So Mr. Johnson and him are on the sofa, and he starts going, I love you, Mr. Johnson. And totally cuddling the dog. And so I come back from the kitchen and I'm like, oh, can I have what Mr. Johnson's having, right? Just kind of when Harry met Sally, can I have what he's having?
Yeah.
And he and the pug look up at me from the sofa, and he goes, Elena, I've known Mr. Johnson for 7 months. We've just met. and I'm like, so, okay, right? I'm like, look at the time. I better go. So I did the walk of shame right out of the apartment. He didn't stop me. He didn't go, I was just being silly.
You would rather make out with Mr. Johnson
than with me. Yeah.
Even though you brought the Chinese food.
I've paid for the Chinese food. I made a joke, and he goes, you seem very jealous of the dog. And I was like, I made it. Have you not seen When Harry Met Sally? I'll have what she's having, that whole thing.
Yeah.
So I did the walk of shame out, and about 2 or 3 days later, I called and I'm like, did that happen? Seriously, did I miss something? And he's like, oh, I thought that you were really jealous of the dog. So
That's
I know.
a TV show.
I know. And so anyway, pugs, and it's funny because I seen him driving around, I saw him, even to this day, I see him driving around with Mr. Johnson on his lap in his dad's car. Because I still don't think he has his own car, or maybe he's borrowing his dad's. But Mr. Johnson still has the #1 place in his lap. So
In his lap.
I think that Mr. Johnson might be a peanut butter dog, if you know what I mean.
Wow.
I'm not bitter or anything. Anyway, so that's one of my many stories. It's not the worst date by any stretch, But that's the one that kind of relates to that. So there you
this
go.
should bring a smile to a lot of people's faces.
Yeah.
Like, this is what you can avoid. Avoid
Yeah.
Twizzlers. Avoid guys who
serve you cheese on the floor in
on
their
the
parents'
floor,
house.
and those who want to make out with their dogs rather than with you.
Indeed. Yes.
So,
Good
Happy
luck out there.
Valentine's Day, everyone.
Happy Valentine's
Bye.
Day.
Bye.